You hit a certain age and start realizing life don't owe you nothing. Not even from your own kids. I'm 68 now, and I ain't as sharp or fast as I used to be, but my heart, still soft as warm bread. So when my son, Tyler, called me talking sweet saying, "My dad, let's take a cruise together. Just us," and my old chest puffed up like I was 20 again. I thought, hell, maybe the boy finally wanted time with his old man. The ship was huge, man. I'm talking skyscraper on water huge. Folks running around with sunglasses bigger than their faces, taking pictures like they were the Kardashians or something. I walked up that ramp slow, taking it all in, thinking, dang, this is kind of fire. Tyler, he was speed walking ahead like he was late for the Super Bowl. Quick break, folks. Where y'all watching from? Drop your city or country. And hey, if you're vibing with this story, don't forget to hit subscribe, tap that bell icon, and let me know what kind of stories you want. Mystery, crime, drama, revenge, anything. Alright, back to it. Anyway, Tyler barely glanced at me. Didn't help with my bag, didn't say, "You good, Dad?" Nothing. Just kept checking his phone like he was allergic to eye contact. But I kept my mouth shut. I told myself, come on, old man, don't ruin this. Maybe he's just stressed. Little did I know, the cruise was about to tear my whole world open. And by the next day, my face would be all over the damn news. Tyler had this smile that looked real if you didn't know him. Wide, bright teeth all lined up like soldiers. But I raised that boy. I knew the difference between his happy smile and his, "I'm just tolerating you" smile. And the one he gave me on that ship? Yeah, that was the second kind. Soon as we got to our room, he tossed his backpack on the bed like he owned the place and said, "Dad, I'm gonna check out the gym real quick." Gym? On vacation? That boy barely lifted grocery bags when he lived with me. But hey, whatever, right? He left so fast the door slapped the wall. I sat on the edge of the bed looking around the cabin. It was nice. Not fancy, but nicer than anything I'd slept in for years. Had a balcony, too. I stepped outside, leaned on the rail, watched the ocean foam up under the ship like a pot of boiling milk. Made me feel small, but peaceful, like maybe this trip really could fix things. But an hour passed. Then two, no sign of Tyler. I even went down to the gym. He wasn't there. Just a bunch of dudes grunting like they were giving birth to barbells. So I waited some more. When he finally strolled back in, he smelled like cheap cologne and excuses. "Sorry, Dad, lost track of time," and he said. But his eyes, man, they told a whole different story. Something was off, and deep down I could feel the storm coming. Next morning I woke up feeling kinda fresh. Joints still stiff. Back still mad at me, but my spirit, it was light. I told myself, all right, old man, today's the day y'all actually bond. Tyler was already up, hair slicked back, looking like he actually put effort in. I thought that was a good sign. He even said, "Morning, Dad," which from him felt like a whole parade. We headed up to the breakfast deck, and man, the smell of bacon alone almost made me cry. They had everything. Pancakes bigger than hubcaps, fruit cut all fancy, omelets made by a chef who spun that spatula like he was doing magic tricks. I grabbed a plate like I hadn't eaten in 3 days. Tyler didn't even sit with me at first. He was looking around, scrolling his phone, acting all twitchy. I waved him over. "Sit down, boy. Food's getting cold." He sat, but he kept glancing over his shoulder like he owed somebody money. "You good?" I asked. He chuckled, fake as a $3 bill. "Yeah, Dad, I'm chillin'. Just excited for the island later." I smiled, even though something in my gut twisted a little, but I ignored it. That's what parents do. We push down the weird feelings if it means holding on to a little hope. When the captain announced over the speakers that the ship was getting close to the island, folks cheered like we just won the lottery. Tyler finally perked up, saying, "Dad, trust me. You're gonna love this place." I believed him. Lord, I shouldn't have. When a man hits his 60s, he starts trusting his gut more than fancy speeches, but that day, I pushed my gut feeling so far down it might as well have been sitting in my socks. Tyler was acting weird again. Not loud weird, quiet weird, the kind of weird where someone's mind is somewhere else cooking up a plan. He kept saying, "Dad, stay close later, all right? Don't wander off." Now, usually a kid saying that sounds caring. But the way he said it, it felt more like an order, not love. We walked the top deck together. The sun was hitting the water so hard it looked like the ocean was covered in diamonds. Folks were lounging, drinking, flirting, taking photos like they were the main characters in a Netflix show. I was trying to enjoy it, trying real hard. Tyler kept answering calls, whispering, telling whoever it was, yeah, just wait till we dock." Every time I looked his way, he'd turn his back like he was hiding cheat notes on a test. I told myself, he's grown. Maybe it's work stuff. But deep down, something was scratching at my inside, saying, "Old man, stay alert." When the island finally came into view, all palm trees, white sand, and postcard vibes, Tyler suddenly got cheerful. Too cheerful, he slapped my shoulder like we were frat boys. "Dad, today's gonna be awesome, trust me." And I smiled back, even though something in me whispered, "Don't trust him. Not today." The closer we got to the island, the more Tyler's whole vibe shifted. One minute he was grinning like everything was sunshine and rainbows. Next minute he was snapping at me like I'd just stolen his wallet. It started small. I asked him if we needed to bring water, and he rolled his eyes so hard I thought they'd fall out. "Dad, don't be extra," he muttered. "Extra? Buddy, I'm 68. My knees sound like bubble wrap when I walk. I'm allowed to ask about water." He walked ahead, not even looking back to see if I could keep up. I tried picking up the pace, but my hip popped like a firecracker. So that plan died real quick. Kids all around us were laughing, couples taking pics, music playing. Whole ship felt like a party. But between me and Tyler, it felt like cold air had settled in. When we lined up to get off the ship, I put my hand on his shoulder. "Hey," I said soft. "You okay? You seem off." He jerked away like my hand was hot. "Dad, stop. You're being too much. Just follow me when we dock and don't ask 100 questions, all right?" The words hit harder than I expected. Not the words, really, the tone. That sharp, fed-up tone that made me feel like some burden he had to drag around. Still, I stayed quiet, stayed hopeful. 'Cause sometimes love makes you blind, and sometimes it makes you stupid. That night before we hit the island, the ocean was calm. Too calm, honestly. The kind of calm that makes you feel like something is lurking underneath, waiting its turn. I sat out on the balcony, letting the breeze slap my face awake while Tyler was inside the cabin, pacing back and forth like a man late on rent. Every few minutes, he'd pick up his phone, check something, put it down, then pick it up again like the damn thing owed him answers. Finally asked, "Everything good, son?" He didn't even look at me. Just threw out a lazy, "Yeah, Dad, chill. I'm fine." But I'd been a father long enough to know when a kid is lying. His voice was tight, his shoulders stiff, his leg bouncing up and down like he drank 8 Red Bulls. I went back to leaning on the rail, watching the moonlight stretch across the water like a long silver road. It was beautiful, but man, my spirit felt uneasy, like something big was coming, the kind of big that changes a life. Inside, Tyler finally stopped pacing. "Dad," he said, voice low, "tomorrow when we hit the island, just stick close to the bench area. Don't go wandering around. I'll come get you after I handle something." "Something? Handle what?" Before I could ask, he shut off the light, muttered a quick, "Good night," and turned away from me. And I lay there staring at the ceiling, feeling like the whole ship was drifting toward trouble. Morning hit, and the island looked like one of those cheesy travel posters. White sand, palm trees swaying, sun hitting just right. Folks were grabbing their bags, taking selfies, smiling like they won the lottery. Tried to soak it in too, but there was this knot in my gut I couldn't shake. Tyler was already up front, acting all casual. He gave me a quick nod and muttered, "Follow me, Dad, don't get lost." I chuckled to myself. Lost? Not on my first island excursion, boy. But inside I was nervous. Something felt off. You know that feeling when your own kid is acting stranger than the random tourists around you? Yeah, that one. We got to the dock and he said, "Just hang by the benches. I got something quick to check out." Now, I ain't dumb. I'd raised him. That tone, that sly little smirk he thought I wouldn't notice, it screamed trouble. But I tried to play it cool. "All right, I'll chill," and I said. He waved, and before I knew it, he was gone, fast. Just like that, my day turned from vacation vibes to wait. What the hell just happened? I looked around. Tourists laughing, kids running, couples holding hands. And me? Old man, stuck on a bench, clutching my bag, realizing I was totally alone. That's when panic started creeping in. That little voice in my head whispered, "This ain't just bad luck. This is intentional." So Tyler jogs off toward the dock like he's in some action flick, yelling back, "Chill here, Dad. I'll be right back." Right back. I sat there, watching him disappear among the crowd like a ghost, feeling a little silly for trusting him. But hey, he's my kid and I'd raised him. I wanted to believe him. I watched the seagulls dive and the waves slap the pier, and thought, man, this is beautiful. Why do I feel like a sitting duck? Minutes ticked by. Tourists bustled past, laughing, taking selfies, not even looking at the old guy on the bench. I kept thinking, he'll be back, right? An hour passed. Then 2. No Tyler. Tried calling him on his phone. Nothing. Text Reed, no reply. I asked a couple workers if they'd seen him. "Sir, you mean your son?" "Yeah. They left 20 minutes ago. The ship's already gone." The world tilted. My knees buckled. I sank into the bench like it owed me a hug. I couldn't believe it. My own son. Abandoned me. On a foreign island. No passport, no wallet. No clue how to get back. And somewhere deep down a fire lit up in my chest. Not anger yet. Not really. Just this raw, cold understanding. I'm on my own, old man. Nobody's coming to save you. That's when the reality hit like a ton of bricks. This vacation was over, and my life about to be flipped upside down. I sat there on that bench, clutching my bag like it was the only thing keeping me sane. The sun was beating down, sweat dripping off my forehead, and I kept asking myself over and over, did my own kid just leave me here? Every couple of minutes I scanned the dock like maybe he'd come running back, smiling sheepishly saying, "Gotcha. Dad, just messing with you." But no, nothing. Just the occasional seagull screeching, and tourists laughing, not a care in the world. I ain't gonna lie, pride tried to kick in. I told myself, don't freak out. You've dealt with worse. Just breathe, old man. But the truth, I was hurt, embarrassed, humiliated, and scared as hell. I saw families reunited, kids grabbing their parents' hands, couples laughing at the sun glinting off the water. And here I was, left on the bench like I was invisible. Like I didn't even matter. Tried approaching a few cruise staff, explaining my situation. They were sympathetic, yeah, but the ship had already left. My son, gone. And every second that ticked by, the panic got heavier. Like I was sinking into the ocean itself. I felt like I'd aged 50 years in that moment. Not from the sun or the heat, but from the raw sting of betrayal. The kid I raised left me like some lost tourist on a postcard. And that's when I realized this wasn't just a bad day. This was a nightmare. By the time I fully processed it, the ship was nothing but a white speck on the horizon. Gone just like that. My son, long gone. And suddenly the warm, sunny island didn't feel so friendly anymore. I tried calling Tyler again. Nothing. Not even that little read receipt thingy lighting up. I tapped his phone like maybe I could reboot reality or something. Didn't work. I wandered the dock, hoping for a miracle, a friendly stranger, a helicopter, a damn anything. But the island was just people laughing, palm trees swaying, and me old and stranded, clutching the little shoulder bag I'd stuffed with a snack and my ID. I kept mumbling to myself, how could he? My own flesh and blood. Just bounce like I'm some luggage he didn't want to carry. I tried to get help from the cruise office. They were sympathetic, yeah, but their hands were tied. Sir, the ship left 40 minutes ago. You're stuck until we figure this out. 40 minutes. That's all it took for my whole world to flip. I sat back down on the bench, legs shaking, heart pounding, looking at the ocean like maybe it could swallow me whole. Felt like the ground had been ripped out from under me, and Tyler, he just walked away without a second thought. I swear in that moment, I didn't feel old or weak or scared. I felt invisible, and it stung worse than any storm I'd ever weathered in my 68 years. By now, panic had fully set in. Not the little oh crap kind. The deep, gut-twisting, I'm on my own in a foreign place kind. I paced that dock like a lion in a cage, muttering to myself, come on, old man, think. Think. I had no phone service, no way to reach Tyler, and barely enough cash to get a sandwich, let alone figure out how to get back to the ship. People were laughing, pointing cameras at the ocean, probably posting pics with hashtags like "Dar Island vibes." I wanted to scream, hey, this ain't a vacation for me, I'm being abandoned. But who'd hear me? I tried talking to a dock officer, explaining the situation. Ma'am. They started confused. I waved my hands like I was crazy. My son, he left me. I'm stuck here. The ship's gone. Help me. They called their supervisor, and I felt a tiny flicker of hope. Maybe someone would save me. But deep down, my chest tightened. I could feel that old, familiar ache. The one that tells you sometimes you're on your own. I sat down again, heart pounding, forehead slick with sweat. Every laugh, every click of a tourist camera felt like the world was mocking me. Tyler had left me on that dock, and there was no rewind button. I whispered to myself, you raised him, old man. You did your best, but now, you gotta survive this on your own. After pacing the dock until my legs felt like lead, a couple of local officers came over. They had that polite but serious look, like they dealt with plenty of stranded tourists. But never with an old guy abandoned by his own kid. Ma'am, one of them asked again. I gave him a tired grin and shook my head. Sir, Dad, old man. Whatever you want to call me. My son left me here. Ship's gone. I need help. They nodded and radioed for someone higher up. Soon, a woman in a bright vest came over, clipboard in hand, and explained the process. We'll get you registered, call the cruise line, and arrange transportation back. I felt a mix of relief and shame. Relief because someone was finally helping me. Shame because, damn it, I was 68 and sitting on a dock in a foreign country like a lost kid. While they typed away, I watched the water lap at the dock, the sun glinting off the waves. My chest felt tight. Part anger, part hurt, part disbelief. Tyler had left me here without a second thought. The officers offered me water, a chair, and even a little snack. Small gestures, but man, They meant the world at that moment. I realized then that kindness doesn't always come from family. Sometimes it comes from strangers. But even with their help, I couldn't shake that gnawing feeling in my gut. Tyler didn't just abandon me physically. He left a wound in my heart that no ocean could wash away. While I was sitting stranded, my mind racing, and officers trying to help me out back on the ship. Tyler's little world was falling apart. I didn't know it yet, but word of my disappearance was starting to spread. Some passengers noticed a commotion near the main deck. People whispering, pointing their phones around. "Hey, isn't that the guy who came on with his dad?" Someone muttered. Tyler, of course, was trying to play it cool, strolling around like nothing happened. But the tension was dripping off him like sweat on a hot sidewalk. Crew members were talking quietly among themselves, too. A few passengers had overheard Tyler arguing with the staff earlier. Voice all annoyed. "I don't need him slowing me down. I just want to enjoy the trip." By mid-afternoon, whispers turned into murmurs. Some people were recording videos, posting on social media. "Yo, check this out," one girl said, showing a clip of Tyler shrugging at staff like he didn't give a damn. Meanwhile, I was still stuck on that dock, trying to make sense of it all, unaware that my absence was already becoming a spectacle. And man, it wasn't just any spectacle. People were starting to gossip, and in the world of social media, gossip spreads faster than wildfire. I had no clue, but Tyler's selfish move was about to backfire, in the biggest way possible. By the time the afternoon rolled in, a few sharp-eyed passengers were starting to notice Tyler's weird behavior. He was wandering the decks, checking his phone nonstop, smirking like he thought no one was watching. But of course someone was. One older lady with binoculars leaned over the railing and whispered to her friend, "That young man, he left someone behind this morning, didn't he?" The friend nodded, eyes wide. People love a scandal, and they could sense it. Even before the crew did. Tyler tried to act casual, bumping into a few passengers, flashing a fake smile. But his movements were stiff, like a cat caught in a rainstorm. Crew members who had helped with embarkation earlier recognized him. A few of them exchanged glances, quietly murmuring to each other. By evening, whispers turned to murmurs to full-on chatter. People were pointing phones at him, snapping pics and videos, sharing looks of disbelief. He started getting twitchy, glancing over his shoulder like he could sense eyes burning holes in him. Meanwhile, I was still stranded on that island, clueless that Tyler's little plan was unraveling faster than a cheap sweater. And I had no idea. The story of his selfish move was about to hit the news, and the world was about to see exactly what kind of kid leaves their own parent behind. By the next morning, Tyler's little problem wasn't so little anymore. Someone on the cruise had posted a video, him looking all annoyed while staff tried to explain that I was missing. The clip went viral fast, blowing up across social media like wildfire. People were commenting, sharing, and tagging their friends. "Dude left his dad on an island." One post read. Another said, "This kid's heartless, SMH, and Tyler. He was freaking." He kept checking his phone, muttering, oh man, this is bad." Meanwhile, I was still stranded, trying to wrap my head around what was happening. I had no idea the world was about to see me. An old man abandoned on a bench, looking bewildered and alone. The cruise staff finally tracked down the clip. They were shaking their heads, muttering under their breath. Tyler's smug attitude was gone. He was pale, muttering, "This can't be real." Strangers on the ship started whispering to each other, pointing. The kid who thought he got away with something? Yeah, everyone knew. And it wasn't just everyone. The news outlets were picking up the story, ready to spin it all over the country. I had no clue yet that by the next day my face, not Tyler's, would be on the news. My story, my humiliation, my betrayal. And that's when I started realizing something powerful. Even when someone leaves you, the world can still see your truth. By the time the news crew got involved, my face and my story were everywhere. They found me early in the morning sitting on that same dock, shaking like a leaf and clutching my little shoulder bag like it was a life raft. A cameraman asked if I'd talk, and at first I hesitated. I mean, who wants their mess broadcast to the whole dang country? But then I thought, hell, Tyler left me here. Might as well let the world know the truth. So I told them. I told them everything, the wait here, Dad, I'll be right back line. How the ship left me stranded, and how my own son walked away like I didn't matter. My voice shook sure, but it carried, and the reporters listened, nodding, scribbling down every word. By mid-afternoon, clips of me telling the story were all over social media. People were commenting, how could he do that? A nice poor old man. The support was overwhelming, but also bittersweet. Tyler, on the other hand, he saw the videos and his smug attitude crumbled. People were tagging him, calling him out, making it clear that abandoning your own parent is not cool. I sat back on the dock watching the sunrise reflect off the water and felt a strange mix of shame, hurt, and vindication. Finally, the truth was out. Finally, the world saw what I had endured, and Tyler's selfishness wasn't hidden anymore. Sometimes I realized getting abandoned isn't the worst thing. Being seen, being heard, and standing your ground, that's the power. By the time evening rolled in, my story was everywhere. Social media was blowing up. Hashtags like Dacho abandoned dad and cruise disaster trending across platforms. People from all over were sharing their outrage. Comments poured in. How could a son do this to his dad? And this is straight up cruel. And where's the humanity? I sat on that dock watching it all unfold on a borrowed tablet from the cruise office. Old guys like me don't usually go viral, but here I was an unexpected internet sensation. For reasons I never wanted. Some folks were offering to help. Others just sending words of encouragement. It felt like strangers had my back when my own blood had bailed. Meanwhile, Tyler was panicking. He called the cruise line nonstop, explaining himself, begging for excuses, muttering, it's not like that. It's just... But nobody cared. His phone kept blowing up with notifications, comments, shares. People were calling him out, sharing the video, and shaming his actions. I leaned back, chest heavy, but a small sense of relief creeping in. Finally, my side was heard. Finally, the truth was out. I wasn't the one embarrassing myself. He was. And the world saw it. At that moment, I understood something crucial. Even when the people closest to you let you down, your story, your truth, still matters. And sometimes it takes strangers and a little public exposure to remind you that you're worth more than the ones who abandoned you. By the next morning, Tyler was losing it. I mean, full-on panic mode. His phone kept buzzing nonstop, notifications blowing. Like fireworks on the 4th of July. Every time he checked it, his face went paler. He saw the videos, me telling the story, telling the truth, and the comments scrolling by like a river of judgment. This kid's heartless. Poor old man abandoned at the dock. How could he do that to his dad? Tyler muttered under his breath, no way. Wait, this can't be happening. But it was. Every like, every share, every comment hammered the point home. The world knew what he'd done, and he couldn't spin it, couldn't hide it, couldn't run from it. Meanwhile, I sat back, letting it all wash over me. Hurt, yeah, plenty. Embarrassed? Sure, but there was also a strange sense of satisfaction. The boy who left me stranded? Suddenly, he was the one under the microscope. Judged by strangers, called out for his selfishness. I could practically hear him muttering to himself. Pacing, trying to figure out a way to fix it. But there wasn't a fix. Not for what he did, not for what he'd shown me, not for the world to see. And man, I realized something in that moment. Sometimes karma ain't subtle. Sometimes it's loud, public, and exactly what the doctor ordered. By the time the cruise company caught wind of what went down, they weren't playing around. Tyler's little stunt had turned into a full-blown PR nightmare. Viral videos, angry comments, and a very public old man stranded on a dock. The manager called him into the office, arms crossed, looking serious. "Sir, see," they said, "your behavior is unacceptable. You abandoned your father and now it's all over the internet. This cannot be ignored." Tyler stammered, tried muttering excuses, saying he didn't mean it, but nobody cared. Meanwhile, I was finally getting some relief. The company arranged for me to be flown to the next port, fed, hydrated, and even got me a room for the night. For the first time since the morning of the island, I felt safe. Tyler, not so much. The staff informed him he wasn't allowed back on certain excursions. He'd be monitored for the rest of the cruise. His ego crushed, his smug grin gone. I leaned back in my hotel chair, feeling a mix of relief and quiet satisfaction. Justice doesn't always come fast, but when it does, it hits the selfish like a ton of bricks. I realized something important. Sometimes, the people who should protect you, like your own kid, won't. But others, strangers, professionals, they can step in when the chips are down. And that day, the world saw not just my pain, but my worth. I woke up early before the sun even cracked the horizon. The dock was quiet, except for the gentle slap of waves and the occasional cry of a gull. I was still stranded, still alone, still trying to wrap my head around what Tyler had done. Then, out of nowhere, a couple of local fishermen appeared. Old dudes, weathered skin, hands calloused from years at sea. They waved at me like I'd been expecting them. "Hey, you all right, old man?" one of them called. I nodded weakly, feeling tears prick my eyes. They didn't fuss, didn't judge, just offered water, snacks, and a ride to a nearby marina where the authorities could help me contact the cruise line. Simple, kind gestures, but man, at that moment they meant everything. As we motored along, the sun started to rise, turning the water gold. I looked back at the dock, at the waves lapping like they were saying goodbye to my nightmare. I thought about Tyler, the boy who left me behind. But I also thought about me, old, stubborn, resilient. I survived. I was gonna get back home, tell my story, and make sure the world knew what happened. By the time we pulled into the marina, a small crowd had gathered. Someone from the local news had heard about me. Cameras, lights, questions. It all hit fast, but I held my head high. Tyler might have left me behind, but that sunrise, that little ride with the fishermen, it reminded me I wasn't invisible. Not anymore. By the time I reached the marina, it felt like the whole world had shown up. Reporters, cameras, microphones, flashing lights and questions thrown at me like I was some celebrity overnight. I'm 68, not used to this kind of attention. But there I was, center stage, telling a story I never wanted to be famous for. "Sir, can you tell us what happened?" one reporter asked, leaning in close. I took a deep breath, tried to steady my shaking hands. Yeah, I can," I said. My voice wasn't perfect. It shook, but every word counted. My son left me on an island. The ship took off. I had nothing. No wallet, no phone. Just me and the waves. Cameras clicked, flashes went off. Reporters scribbled notes, nodding at every word. And for the first time since Tyler ditched me, I felt seen. Not just by strangers, but by the world. People were hearing my side of the story. The truth, raw and real. Tyler's little stunt, it had backfired. Now everyone knew. Everyone was seeing him for what he really was. Selfish, careless, heartless. Somewhere in the crowd, I could feel eyes on me. Strangers' hearts weighing my pain, sympathizing. I'd been abandoned, yeah, but at that moment I wasn't invisible. I wasn't weak. I was a survivor. And deep down I realized something. Sometimes the universe has a way of showing the world who the real hero is, and who just doesn't deserve to be in your story. The cameras kept rolling and I started talking. Told him everything, from Tyler's fake smile at breakfast, to the "wait here, Dad" line, to being left stranded on the dock with nothing but my bag and a bad gut feeling. My voice shook sometimes, sure, but every word was honest. Reporters leaned in, scribbling, recording, nodding. People back home were watching live, tweeting, sharing, commenting. And man, the support, it hit me like a warm wave after a storm. Poor old man abandoned at the dock. I can't believe a son would do that. This is heart-wrenching. Even strangers were reaching out, offering help, sending messages. Some folks said, "Well, I will make sure you get home safe." And others just shared their own stories of being let down by family. I realized then, I wasn't alone, even if my own kid left me in the dust. Meanwhile, Tyler, he was losing it. People were tagging him, shaming him online. His little world of fake smiles and excuses crumbled while the world watched. Sitting there talking to the reporters, I felt something I hadn't in a long time: power. Not the kind you flaunt, but the kind that comes from surviving, from telling your story, from letting the truth hit the world. By the end of the interview, my heart was heavy from hurt, but strong from knowing I'd finally been heard, and for once the boy who abandoned me wasn't the one in control. After the interview, the crew's security team stepped in. They weren't sugarcoating anything. They laid it all out about Tyler's behavior. Apparently, they'd noticed his attitude from day one, rolling his eyes, ignoring staff instructions, whispering on his phone like he was scheming. "Sir, we reviewed our footage," one officer said. "Your son intentionally left you behind. This wasn't an accident. We tried to intervene, but he refused." Hearing that made a chill run down my spine. I knew deep down he'd done it on purpose, but hearing it confirmed by professionals, that hit harder than the waves back on the dock. Tyler tried to explain himself later when security confronted him, muttering excuses like, "I didn't think it'd be a big deal. I just wanted space." The officers didn't blink. Not a single word of sympathy. They made it clear, abandoning a parent isn't just wrong, it's unacceptable. I sat back, quietly watching it all unfold. The boy who left me stranded, his ego was shattered. The truth was public, and the world was witness to his selfishness. For the first time in years, I felt this strange sense of justice. Not revenge, not bitterness, but clarity. I wasn't the one in the wrong. I had been patient, loving, and betrayed. And now the truth was on my side. Sometimes I realize the world has a funny way of protecting. You and your own blood won't. And that day, the crew's security became the guardians of my story, my vindication. After the news spread, Tyler finally came around. Not apologizing at first, no, he was awkward, stumbling over his words like a kid caught in a lie. "Dad, I didn't mean to," he muttered, eyes darting everywhere but at me. I let him talk, even though every word stung. He tried to explain, saying he wanted freedom, space, and a break from the vacation vibes. I just shook my head. 68 years of life experience told me this wasn't about stress or excitement. It was selfishness, plain and simple. People online were watching this unfold too. Comments flooded in. "Too little. Too late. How do you make amends after abandoning a parent? And the old man deserves better." Even strangers were giving me advice, support and encouragement. I realized then that Tyler's attempts at apology didn't matter much. Words are cheap, actions are heavy. And his actions that day? They left me stranded, humiliated, and heartbroken. No amount of sorry could erase that. so I let him finish talking and walked away for a moment, breathing in the salty air, letting the truth settle. He learned the hard way that abandoning someone, especially your own parent, comes with consequences, and the world had witnessed every bit of it. For the first time in days, I felt a strange sense of peace. I was still hurt, sure, but I had my dignity, my story, and the knowledge that I survived. Tyler, he had a lesson to learn, one he wouldn't forget soon. After the story went viral and Tyler's antics were exposed, something incredible happened. People, complete strangers, reached out with messages of support, offers to help, and just compassion. I got letters, emails, even social media messages. You're a hero for telling your truth. We've been there too, and you're strong. No one should ever be abandoned like that. It hit me hard. For years, I'd thought family was all that mattered, that your own blood would always have your back. But life taught me differently. Sometimes strangers see your value before the ones you love. Tyler tried to approach me again, stammering words that couldn't fix the past. But the world had already spoken, and I realized validation doesn't always come from those who hurt you. It comes from your courage to stand, speak, and survive. I spent that evening watching the sun sink behind the horizon, thinking about the past few days, the fear, the betrayal, the loneliness, and then the strange, unexpected pride I felt. I survived a nightmare. I told my story, and millions of people saw that even when you're abandoned, you're never truly alone. Sometimes life flips the script. The kid who left me behind, he was now the cautionary tale. And me, I was the old man who faced betrayal, survived, and came out stronger. The sun dipped low, waves shimmering, and I knew one thing for sure. I'd never forget this. But I'd also never let it break me. By now, Tyler's actions were no longer just a family mess. They were a full-on public debacle. The cruise company had reprimanded him. News outlets had covered the story, and social media wasn't letting him off easy. Every post, every comment, every share was a reminder of what he did. He tried to explain himself, tried to salvage whatever dignity he thought he had, but it was too late. People weren't buying it. Abandoning your parent? Seriously? One comment read, "I can't believe he did that." Another scrolled past. His reputation toast. Meanwhile, I got to witness something I hadn't expected. Justice in its quiet, unshakable form. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need him punished further. The truth, plain and simple, had done it for me. Tyler's selfishness was exposed, and the world knew it. I walked along the marina later that day, thinking about the past few days, the panic, the fear, the betrayal, and realized I'd grown stronger, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. I survived a situation that could have broken most people. I glanced at the ocean, waves glimmering in the afternoon sun, and felt a calm settle over me. Tyler's lesson wasn't mine to enforce. Life had already done that. And for the first time in days, I smiled, genuinely. Sometimes, old man or not, life throws hell at you. And sometimes the best you can do is stand tall, tell your story, and let the consequences catch up to those who deserve it. After a day at the marina and a little rest, the cruise company arranged for me to rejoin the ship. I felt a mix of nerves and pride. Walking back on board wasn't just about returning to a vacation. It was about reclaiming my dignity. Passengers whispered and stared, some recognizing me from the viral video. Some offered smiles and nods. Others simply gave me a thumbs up. I waved back, holding my head high. The old man who was abandoned, now visible, strong, and unbroken. Tyler, he tried to approach me again, muttering something about sorry and misunderstanding. I stopped him with a calm, firm voice. "Save it, son. Actions speak louder than words, and yours already told the story. As I walked the decks, I realized something profound. Life had thrown me into a nightmare, but I'd survived. I'd faced betrayal, loneliness, and fear, and the world had witnessed my truth. That was worth more than any apology Tyler could offer. I found a quiet spot overlooking the ocean, sat down, and just breathed. Waves shimmered under the sun, gulls cried overhead, and for the first time in days, I felt a sense of peace. Tyler had left me behind, but I'd returned stronger. I was older, maybe a little battered, but unbroken. And sometimes that's all you really need to know, that no matter who abandons you, your strength, courage, and truth can carry you through. By the time I settled back on the ship, Tyler's public shame was full-blown. Social media hadn't forgotten him. Posts, comments, and memes kept circulating like wildfire. People weren't just angry. They were calling him out for abandoning his own dad. "Heartless kid," one post read. "No excuse for this," said another. I overheard a few passengers whispering on the deck. Some recognized Tyler and shook their heads, while others offered me pats on the back, saying things like, "Glad you're okay, sir. That boy messed up." That support warmed me more than the sun on my face. Tyler tried to face me again, trying to defend himself. "Dad, I didn't mean," he started. I just shook my head, smiling faintly. "Son, the world already knows what you did. Your actions spoke louder than any words you could muster." It was strange. The kid who thought he'd gotten away with something was now public property in a way he didn't like. Meanwhile, I got to enjoy the irony. I was safe, supported, and seen. Tyler, he was dealing with the fallout of his own selfishness. As I watched the sunset from the deck that evening, I reflected on everything: the panic, the fear, the betrayal, and the power of telling the truth. Life can leave you stranded, sure, but it can also give you a chance to rise, be heard, and reclaim your dignity. That night I felt a quiet satisfaction. Tyler had learned a lesson the hard way, and I had survived. Strong, proud, and unbroken. By the next morning, Tyler was quiet. Too quiet. Usually he'd be joking, smirking, acting like he owned the place. But not now. The crew, the passengers, the media, everyone who knew the story had seen him for what he really was, and he couldn't shake it. I watched him from across the deck, sipping my coffee, reflecting. There was no pride in his eyes, no mischief. Just the weight of consequences. The kid who abandoned his dad had become the cautionary tale, and sometimes the universe has a way of making lessons stick. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. Life itself had done the work. Social media, the cruise company, even strangers from the island, they all played their part. Tyler had no escape. He had to face the truth of what he'd done. Meanwhile, I felt lighter than I had in days. Every step, every wave I watched, every kind word from strangers reminded me I survived. I was heard. I was respected. And nothing Tyler could do would take that away. I realized then that life isn't always fair. Some people abandon you. Some people hurt you. But the real victory, it's in standing tall, telling your story, and letting the truth shine. By the time we docked at the next port, I felt ready to go home, stronger, wiser, and more certain than ever. My worth was never defined by the kid who left me behind. Finally, it was time to leave the cruise behind. I packed my bag, took one last look at the ship, the ocean glimmering under the sun, and felt a mix of relief and pride. This trip had turned into a nightmare, yeah, but I survived it. Strong, unbroken, and wiser than ever. Tyler tried to approach me one last time. "Dad, I'm sorry," he mumbled, head low. I looked at him calmly, shook my head slowly, and said, "Son, apologies don't erase the past. You will have to live with your choices just like I lived through mine." The journey home wasn't about revenge or anger. It was about reclaiming my dignity, my story, and my strength. Strangers had helped me. The world had seen the truth. And Tyler had learned the hard way what selfishness really costs. As I boarded the plane, I thought about everything. The fear, the panic, the isolation on that island, and the way the world had rallied around me. I realized something important. Sometimes family fails you. Sometimes life throws the worst at you. But your courage and resilience define who you really are. Looking out the window at the clouds below, I smiled. The old man who was abandoned? He was coming home stronger than ever. Tyler's lesson would stay with him forever. And my story, my truth, had survived every wave, every heartbreak, every fear. And that, my friends, is how you turn betrayal into strength.